Matthew Allen. I know this is a hypothetical exercise, but do you ever stop to wonder how the whole movement, quote unquote, of Scientology might have panned out had it not come under the iron grip of David Miscavige? You've mentioned in the past, for example, that it was at least possible for a lower-level Scientologist to make a bit of profit from the old-style missions. Also, I've been looking through Captain Bill's messages from outer space lately, and they at least have the merit of being highly imaginative, idealistic, and entertaining. Ultimately, of course, they are still yet another set of mad ramblings, but I can't help thinking that following the death of LRH, this kind of material might have flourished if the membership had gone in a more loosely organized direction. Can you imagine such an alternative history, such that we would almost be able to see the religion as endearingly kooky today rather than plain old nasty and manipulative? Or have I myself indulged in pure fantasy here? I write all this as a deeply fascinated never-in. Thanks, Matthew. I'm all about engaging in flights of fancy and what ifs and what could have beens. But the fact of the matter is that Scientology is and always has been from its inception a destructive cult. It is all about L. Ron Hubbard and his power and authority, and it is all about enriching him. Now, David Miscavige took over, and he's the guy who's getting enriched, and he's the one who it is now sort of personalized around. Scientology is not exactly a cult of personality, but David Miscavige is the undeniable head personality of Scientology. And he does have his own little thing going on in there, but the whole group as a whole is a destructive cult, and let's not ever forget that. Let's also not forget that Scientology, from its inception, is a money-making scam. Now, this is a different tune than I've sung before on this. I've talked in many places on this show and in other videos about how Scientology could settle down, chill out, actually continue to exist not as a destructive cult, how they could, shed the OT levels, for example, stop disconnecting people and shunning, knock off the ethics crap, get rid of the Office of Special Affairs, and just concentrate on the lower level services. If they just did those three things, get rid of OSA, get rid of the ethics crap, including disconnection, and chuck the OT levels and just deal with the lower level stuff, then you would have a different setup. Then you could move it in a direction of non-destructive cult. But you're still stuck with this money-making scam thing. And that's a thing, because Scientology is not a body of truth. It's a body of plagiarized common sense principles and nonsense. It's a hodgepodge of nonsense, including science fiction, fantasy nonsense, psychotherapy nonsense, pseudo-therapy, intensively so, and a whole body of literature that is based on the most false premises about people and life and the universe that you can imagine. So, at the end of the day, there really isn't a whole lot salvageable or useful in that body of crap. And so if you ask me, okay, let's imagine this flight of fancy where Miscavige doesn't take over. Okay, well, we've talked about that before. What if Miscavige didn't take over? Well, a body of people were running the show already before Miscavige came along. Hubbard had gone off into hiding. He was still running the show as far as senior orders and directions, but he had a whole cohort of people, messengers, and he had the Guardian's office was still going. This is 1970s. This is going all the way back to the 1970s. And then the Guardian's office blows up, and Miscavige takes over, and all of that. That's the stuff that went on in the 80s. So let's say that didn't happen. Let's say the Guardian's office blew up, and then Miscavige somehow wasn't in the picture. Well, they would have dealt with it in a different way. Who knows what would have happened? But had the people who were in charge during that time continued running things, it would not have been, I can say, it would not have resulted in as much of a dictatorial, authoritarian, horror show. But it would still be a destructive cult. And it would still be more damaging than helpful on every front. So knowing that, it's a little hard for me to go into a kinder, gentler Scientology, right? Because the fact is, it doesn't really exist that way because that's never been that way. That's my answer right now. And let me know if you want more, if that satisfies.